The Rise of the Ganja Granny and So High 420. Once upon a time, in the early days of cannabis legalization, there were only a handful of dedicated growers scattered across a few select states. These pioneers took immense pride in their craft. To them, cannabis wasn't just a crop, it was medicine, art, and purpose all rolled into one. Their cultivation skills produced some of the finest medicinal cannabis, cherished by patients who had finally found relief after years of suffering. Back then, cannabis was only legal in a few states, and the industry was small but passionate. Growers bonded over soil mixes, terpenes, and late night trimming sessions. They operated mostly underground, relying on word of mouth, compassion, and community respect. There were no commercials, no billboards, and certainly no Instagram pages with flashy filters and influencers. But as the wave of legalization began sweeping the nation, things began to shift. From Oregon to Colorado, then California to Michigan, one state after another opened its doors to cannabis. With every new law, a new opportunity bloomed. The quality of cannabis improved drastically. Lab tested, organically grown, with creative strain names like Skywalker OG and Purple Punch. Dispensaries began popping up like wildflowers after a spring rain, and with them came demand. Huge demand.
Suddenly, more and more people were drawn to the plant, not just to consume it, but to grow it. Hobbyists turned into professionals, closets turned into grow rooms, and basements became botanical havens. Growing cannabis became one of the best ways to enter the industry. But with the explosion of growers came something inevitable: competition. Without a way to advertise, most growers had to rely on reputation, patient reviews, or dispensary deals. The cannabis market was flourishing, but the growers were starting to blend into the green haze. And then, like a puff of smoke on a breezy day, came a spark of genius. Enter the Ganja Granny. No one really knew her real name. Some said she was once an executive vacation advisor and a top saleswoman from Las Vegas. Some said that she's from Brooklyn. Others claimed she had grown some of the finest bud in Humboldt back in the 80s. But what everyone agreed on was this: she had style, heart, and one brilliant idea. One morning, inspired by the plants themselves, the Ganja Granny started creating clothing using real cannabis plant impressions. She called her line So High 420 Apparel. Each piece, shirts, hoodies, and eventually shoes, was embedded with designs inspired by real strains grown by real cultivators. But she didn't stop there. She reached out to a handful of growers and offered them a deal. Send her a gorgeous photo of their best cannabis plant, and she'd turn it into wearable art. In return, all she asked was that they give out samples of her clothing to friends, loyal customers, and fellow cannabis lovers. Let the plant speak for itself, she'd say, and let it walk down the street. It worked like wildfire. Soon, customers weren't just coming in for flower or cartridges, they were asking for the gear. They wanted the hoodie with that frost-covered lemon zest nug on the back. They craved the sneakers with leaves from the legendary Blue Dream harvest, and they wore them proudly. So High 420 became a hit. The cannabis world, long deprived of expressive fashion, now had a bold, grassroots streetwear movement. Growers finally had a way to stand out, not just through their product, but through their art. Soon, articles began circulating online. Meet the mysterious Ganja Granny behind the hottest cannabis fashion brand. Videos of bud tenders and trimmers dancing in So High 420 gear went viral. The industry was buzzing, and not just from the THC. But just as the spotlight grew brighter, the Ganja Granny disappeared. Word spread that she'd set sail. Literally. She had taken her fashion line to the seas, launching So High 420 cruisewear. Picture-flowing cover-ups made from hemp fiber, vibrant cannabis leaf bikinis, and bucket hats with embroidered strain names. Her designs turned heads on every ship from Miami to the Mediterranean. She was spotted at poolside bars, casually sipping mocktails and telling stories of strains past, always dressed in her signature greens and golds. And everywhere she went, her cruisewear sparked joy, conversation, and curiosity. To this day, no one knows exactly where the Ganja Granny will pop up next, but her legacy sails strong. She didn't just revolutionize cannabis fashion, she gave growers a voice, a brand, and a way to shine. one strain at a time. And that's how a granny made the cannabis world so high and so fly.